Ladies and gentlemen, this is another day God has given us. We are so blessed and humbled today to be on TJK Shares, but today is one-on-one with TJK. As we promised you, we bring you extraordinary people who are doing extraordinary things in the world, change makers, impact investors, transformational ideas that we all need to keep growing. The channel is free. You get free information. The guests are amazing, and once you hear from them, they stay in touch with us and will share a lot of information. Today, I'm excited to be hosting what in our language called Omsoiro, the person from the area where I was born and raised, the man I have known all his life. I'm older than him, so I've known him all his life, but he has turned around to be a businessman, a husband, a father, a big brother, and most importantly, a man who is changing so many lives in this world. Welcome, Sam Mugisha. Please tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Jackson. Thank you, my big brother, for having me on this platform and for giving me an opportunity to share my experiences and the experiences that really touched my life. Most importantly, the experiences I had from our rural area, Kambuga, Kanungu, and specifically Bunyinya Enengo. Yes.
That word Enengo is a good word, and it is what made you the man you have become. Just tell us a little bit about your family background.
My name is Samuel Mugisha. I was born 1975 in a polygamous family of 2 wives and so many other children. But by the time my parents passed on, we were a family of 28 brothers and sisters.
Yes.
From my mother's side, I'm the third born and the first boy child. So that's briefly about my family. Right now, I got married to a very beautiful wife, and I have got 3 children, 3 beautiful girls, 15 years, 12 years, and 8 years.
And I was the man who went to your wife's family to ask them to give you a wife. So
yeah, thank you for that, for being the connection. And I hope I have not betrayed you, because I still love my wife. I still care for my family, and I promise you, I will do that forever.
Wonderful. I wish we had Chichoncho Ann to be here also, but we don't have Chichoncho Ann today. We will have pictures of Chichoncho Ann. We make sure that we include the children. My babies, amazing, lovely soccer players. We have had a lot of fun bringing my children to your house and having soccer games in front.
Yeah.
World Cup has happened right there. With
the children are missing the cousins. We hope again they will come back this year.
We will do that. And as a boy child, the first boy child in a family for your mother, share with the audience what that means in terms of responsibility. We come from patriarchal families, with patriarchal society, mostly where men and boys are looked at differently, expectations are different. Dig deep a little bit about that so we can have context. We are a place where we want to share knowledge, but also a place where we are vulnerable, but also honest with each other. What does it mean to be the first boy in your mom and dad's family? And how has that shaped your life to this day?
Yeah, actually, let me start this way. The question you have just asked reflected in my names.
Yes.
Samuel Mugisha. Actually, it was a very unique and a very special moment for my mother, because after having the first children who were girls, the community put pressure on my parents. And at that time, I was told, or I know by history, that a family who did not have a boy child, or a wife who did not have a boy child, was not respected, was not loved at all. So it happened to my mother And the family or the community started putting pressure on my father that, no, you can't be there without a boy child. You would rather get another wife, you'd rather get other children. And indeed, actually, my father did. So, having got the second wife who produced a boy child, my mother was looking at was in a situation where if now my husband has got a second wife who gave him a boy child, my life is doomed now. So my mother, as the story of Samuel in the Bible, prayed so much that, whoa, God, please give me a boy child. And indeed, it so happened, but it was much more difficult for my mother because between my next sister and myself, my mother had an unfortunate incident of having 4 miscarriages.
Oh my God, I never knew this.
So now, on the 5th pregnancy, that's when my mother said to God, even though I'm asking for a boy child, God, what I pray for in this 5th pregnancy, just let me have any child. So God answered her prayer in a very big way. And the 5th pregnancy that was able to mature to, to the delivery period, yes, it brought up a boy child. So asked from God, and how lucky it is. So she named me Mugisha, which in our local language means luck.
No wonder you are so blessed, son.
Thank you so much.
And for the context also, people need to understand why I said we grew up around the same, in the same area. I'm 5 years older than you. Our parents attended the same church, Zitun Seventh-day Adventist Church. Sam and I drummed so many drums on Friday nights to usher in the Sabbath, and we would camp at the church until Sabbath is over so we can drum again to after the Sabbath. So the prayers were answered. No wonder they named you Sam Mugisha. And that is from your parents' context. Now, as a boy who follows, 3 girls ahead of you, 2 girls. Similar.
Yeah, and indeed, as luck followed me, even the next siblings from my mother's side, most of them were girls. You probably know them. You know Babazi, Patience, Ruth, until we had the last 2 other boys, Isaac and Andrew. Yeah? So as the first boy child on my mother's side and in the family, my roles were really very unique. The first thing is that our family, or my father was, rearing cows. So as a boy child, my role was to work with my father to tend the cows. Yes. Every day, my role would be to wake up so early in the morning, go milking the cows. And this is the work that I started at the age of 2. I started milking the cows at the age of 2. By the age of 3, I was able to milk a cow by myself, begin taking the milk and selling it to Kambuga Hospital. Yes. And now that rolled me into a role of being a Ugandan cowboy in the rural areas.
Yes.
My job was really looking after the cows. Now, because of that kind of situation at the gender role, I was not, or the culture did not allow me to participate in other, like household chores like cooking or whatever. For example, my father would be very mad at me if he ever found me in the kitchen. That is the role of women. For you, you should go and look after the cows.
Yes.
So, but thankfully, my mother somehow would smuggle me into the kitchen and say, you better cook. You don't know what will happen to you in the future. And I'm really grateful for that important role that my mother did, because when it happened that I went to Japan and I had to cook for myself, the only thing that helped me was the few little times that my mother had actually encouraged me to go to the kitchen and cook. But generally, as a boy child, my role was to look after the cows, maybe go and fetch firewood, but never go to dig, never go to the kitchen to cook, and that was it.
Exactly. All right, so that's the background. You now know Sam Mugisha. You know how he was named. You know that prayers do change things, and Sam's mom prayed, and Samuel Mugisha is here. What is your role today? What do you do for a living, Sam?
My main job now, I own and operate a tour company called Big Tours. So I am a tour operator. I'm an investor in tourism in Uganda.
Yes. What inspired you to start your tour company, and how did you get started? So now I'm going to go through the questions I already sent you so our listeners can get to understand. And when you're answering these questions also, if something I didn't ask you what you want to add in, please do add it in. Our listeners want to understand and learn, relearn, and unlearn. At some point, you will tell us the background, how this all got started and the languages you speak. So what inspired you, Sam?
Actually, thank you so much. Actually, when I was young, my inspiration was to become a veterinary doctor. When I got the senior 4 results, I even went further to go into branch into a technical school or like an institute, an agricultural institute, to become a veterinary doctor, because all that time my inspiration was a very powerful veterinary doctor who still lives in Kambuga, Dr. George Kajura, who would come and treat our cows. Yeah, he would come when he's very smart in the white, coat, white gumboots, and sometimes maybe on a motorcycle. And I really, really wanted to be him. But most importantly, he would come and treat our cows, which were at the verge of death. And they resurrect again, they become energetic again. So I really wish to be a veterinary doctor.
Life giver of the cows.
Yes. I wanted to save the cows and the calves, So, but because I had got, so my cousin, who was teaching at Makerere University, encouraged my father to, with the results that I had from the rural school, to continue through A level, and then I went to study history, economics, and divinity, and this helped me to pass to join Makerere University, where I did social work and social administration. Yes. So I'm giving this background because I did social work, I wanted to become a veterinary doctor, but now I'm in tourism. So now, when I finished Makerere University, like as it is in most developing countries, even with a good course like social work and social administration, you would not get a job immediately. So I offered my services as a volunteer in many organizations, and one of the organizations for which I volunteered my services as a social worker was what is now Nyaka AIDS Orphans Project, or at that time it was Nyaka AIDS Foundation. Yes. And I offered my services at the time when we were just beginning. My role was to carry the first bricks, take them to Kambuga, build the first oversee the first building of the first classrooms, take pictures. That was my role. Now, with Nyaka growing and getting visitors and getting volunteers, it naturally came out to me that because I'm based in Kampala, the visitors, the volunteers who are coming to Uganda, it was my role to arrange and pick them from the airport, get them accommodation in Kampala, arrange how we shall go on the bus from Kampala to take them 400 miles away from Kampala. The buses were stopping halfway, so we would stop somewhere in the town called Rukunjiri, and from Rukunjiri we would jump on the pickups, or sometimes you have to walk and cross Enengo and take them to Nyaka. Yes. And that was 2001 and 2002. So somehow I did not know that I was naturally getting into the tourism business unknowingly. But now the real spark came at a time when I had just, around that time when we were starting Nyaka, late 2002, I had an opportunity of meeting a Japanese doctor, donor, who was coming to Uganda, and he invited me to go to Japan. So now when I reached Japan and I started learning Japanese and talking to the Japanese, 2003, 2004, and I'm telling the story of where I come from, Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, the source of River Nile, the source of Lake Victoria, Rwenzori Mountains, and most importantly, in my home village, Bwindi National Park, where we have the mountain gorillas, just a few kilometers from Kambuga to Chihihi, Ishasha, the tree climbing lions.
Yes.
The Japanese who heard the stories couldn't believe that it is possible. So I invited them, you guys come with me and you will see what I'm talking about. So in 2004, I would say, when I was returning to Uganda after my 1 year, I came with the first, I would say, Japanese tourists to Uganda.
Yes, you did.
Now, when I did, we arrived in Kampala, but we had to travel all the way to my home village. We visited Queen Elizabeth National Park. At that time, we did not go to Bwindi because I did not know how to book gorilla permits and all that. So, but that was how I naturally entered into the tourism business. I returned back to Japan to work now, not as a student, but with a working visa, and I worked in Japan for 2 years, 2005 and 2006.
Yes.
And that time, there was an international expo that opened opportunities for me to enter into the tourism industry. This was the Aichi Expo in Japan, which is an international expo which rotates in continents for 6 months. So the Ugandan embassy had a Ugandan booth. I had an opportunity to go to the Ugandan booth and now talk about my country. Yes. And before I left, I participated in the first tourism expo in Japan, where I got Japanese travel agent partners. And by 2007, I had got the first official client through travel agents from Japan. So I could say professionally, I started my journey in the tourism industry in 2007.
I have been a witness and recipient of your services, and I know so much about your company and your services. So for people who don't know Big Tours, you have a website which we will share, but tell us in your own words, what sets you apart? What makes Big Tours unique from all other tour companies anybody can choose from?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think that my background in social work and social administration has actually propelled me into focusing on community tourism.
Yes.
Tourism that has impact on the community. Tourism that is focusing on sustainability. We actually offer tailor-made tours. We don't have like scheduled tours where you have to get huge groups, like traveling. We only focus on handling tours that are tailor-made, small groups. Our average group, we are talking of 5 to 7. And the maximum groups that we have had probably are like 20 or 25, depending on the numbers. With that, you are able to prepare an itinerary and create experiences for the people that are traveling, that are visiting you, and then they can interact with the destinations and the communities without having to create friction with the communities and the destinations they are visiting.
Yes.
So that balance of the visitors' experiences vis-a-vis the host communities' experiences, benefits, and the impact that tourism has is something that Big Tours would like to focus on to keep us, unique as a tour operator.
So for somebody who has never been to Uganda, Sam, and is listening to us right now, going, hi, like Sam, I see his shirt. It has this Uganda flag on it. I see in his background is that big bird. It says Uganda. I want to go to Uganda. What are the best destinations for the first time visitor who is coming to visit Uganda?
Uganda is so unique that it is very, very difficult for us tour operators to pinpoint on one single tourism experience that can that really, that's why Uganda is the pearl of Africa.
Yes.
Now, Uganda, I would say, is a one-stop center in a tourism experience in Africa. Talk of the Savannah Safari experience, you'll have it. Talk of the adventure.
Yes.
You will have it. Talk of the cultural experience. Uganda will have it.
Yes.
Now, and Uganda is good for the tourism in Uganda is good for both the adults, the children. Now, for now, Uganda is known as the best destination for gorilla tracking. I would also add there chimpanzee tracking. So in summary, I would say primate tourism in Uganda is #1. Gorilla tracking can be experienced in 3 countries. You're talking of Uganda, Rwanda, and Congo. That's why you can only find the mountain gorillas. But out of the 3,
the whole world.
In the whole world, mountain gorillas can be tracked in 3 countries: Uganda, Rwanda, and Congo. Out of the 3 countries, Uganda gives you the best opportunity to track the gorillas because you're tracking gorillas in the Bwindi Impenetrable National Park, which is a UNESCO heritage site because of its natural untouched forest. In Rwanda, you can track gorillas, but high mountains, maybe bamboo vegetations and all that. But in Bwindi, you have this Bwindi. That's why it is Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. Uganda gives you also the opportunity to track chimpanzees in Nyaka AIDS National Park, and this is just a distance of about maybe 4 to 5 hours drive. Yeah. So a primatologist who is interested in primate experience, forest walking, forest bathing, you just need to come to Uganda. We'll arrange a tour for you to track gorillas in Bwindi. Then after 1 day or 2 days of resting, we can now take you to another Nyaka AIDS National Park for tracking chimpanzees. And there is nowhere you can get this experience in such a short time in anywhere in the world.
That's wonderful, Sam. Where
now,
good job. Okay.
Now, for safari experiences of going into the jeeps and driving to the savannah to see the national park, to see the animals in the national park, Uganda has got, I would say, 4 unique national parks where you can experience that. But out of the 4, 3 national parks are top notch. One is Queen Elizabeth National Park, where you do the morning game drive in the savannah. On top of that, in the afternoon, after you have done all the jumping bumps, the jeeps, then in the afternoon, you now have these lakes that are connected by a channel, a natural channel, where now you will now go into the boat and do the jungle cruise. I know many people know about the Disney jungle cruise. Yeah. Oh, what comes next? The hippos. What comes next? The elephant. This one is a real jungle cruise.
Yes, natural. My kids
natural
have
jungle
cruise
cruise on Kazinga channel. You can check it. I know this is one of the highlights of the safari experiences in Uganda, where people really live the actual jungle cruise by cruising on Kazinga channel, seeing the animals, the bird life, the animal life, and all that experience is really very unique. You can't get it anywhere in the world. Other national parks in East Africa, you can do the game drives in the morning, game drives in the afternoon, but you won't have an opportunity to do a morning game drive and a jungle cruise on the same day in the national park.
Well said, well done.
The second national park that in Uganda is really very unique is Jackson Kaguri National Park. Okay. This one too will give you a morning game drive and a boat cruise in the afternoon. But again, this is a very unique experience. Probably people know the boat cruises, the Nile cruises in Egypt. Now, when you come to Uganda, here you are going to cruise the River Nile. You are going to enjoy the boat cruise on the River Nile at the source. We will take you to Jinja to experience the source of River Nile. The next day or 2 days, we will take you to Jackson Kaguri National Park. Now, the River Nile crosses through Jackson Kaguri National Park. So in the morning, you'll do the safari experience of the jeep and all that. Then in the afternoon, we are going to arrange for you to take a boat cruise, a River Nile boat cruise, where you're going to see animals and birds left and right. And the boat cruise ends at the bottom of what is probably the most powerful waterfall in the world.
Yes.
The volume of water of River Nile squeezes into just 45 meters, just 7 meters, and the power of the waterfall is immense. This is one of the highlights that people can, have come to experience, and it's really, really, really unique for a trip that people take in Uganda in Murchison Falls National Park. Kidepo Valley National Park is another remote, unique one. I won't have time to talk much about it, but I know for me, 3 national parks in Uganda will provide, anything for anybody.
Yes.
Murchison Falls, Queen Elizabeth National Park, Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. It's a menu each one of us can choose from. On top of that, let me summarize. Let me add there two other unique features that make Uganda destination really, really very unique. Uganda is a bird's paradise. Out of the birds that you can see in the whole world, Uganda has 11% of the birds in the world. You can come to Uganda and see 11% of the birds you can see in the whole world.
Wow.
In Uganda, we have 50% of the birds that you can see in the whole of Africa. So you can imagine bird watchers, the moment they are live in Uganda, and that's why you see this bird in the background. The moment you run at the airport, Entebbe Airport, just around the botanical gardens, so many birds, and this is one of the unique birds. They should be in the marshes and papyrus swamps around Lake Victoria. You will just, the African jackanas, the shoebills, the crested queen. Queen Elizabeth alone has got 612 bird species. So on the boat cruise that I have just explained about, a bird watcher will have a field day.
Yeah, I think
Finally,
we need another episode to. You can have an episode on birds. You can have episodes on each of the national parks.
Yes.
The job you do, Sam, is actually what the Uganda tourism, the Ministry of Tourism ought to be doing. I hope one of the government officials listening to this needs to really tap into your knowledge and how you do this. Let me ask you something. Many people who have traveled have also read news. The State Department here in the United States always puts up all these warnings for people traveling to Uganda. How does Big Tour ensure the safety of the people who have entrusted their lives into your hands to be driven on those roads, to be taken these national parks? There have been abductions in national parks. How have you ensured the safety and security of the clients you manage?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Safety of our visitors is really a priority to us. It's very important to us. We are members of the Uganda Tour Operators Association. We work very, very closely with the government of Uganda, Uganda Tourism Board, and Ministry of Tourism. So we are able to get up-to-date information on any situation in Uganda. Mm-hmm. So we keep getting information. Of course, the travel advisories also, sending information that we tap into. But also, the government of Uganda has gone a step further and created what we call the tourism police, who work very closely with the tour operators. Okay. And the tourism police is placed in unique tourist destinations. Mm-hmm. They are all over the country to gather intelligence, to provide any emergency safety issues that may arise. But most importantly, the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Defense and other security institutions, have really tried safe. As of now, we do not have any like internal war, or we don't have areas which are very insecure to travel to. So that alone gives us a base for which we can start our tourism.
Okay.
Now, the moment the tourists arrive in Uganda, then we work with the tourism police. We work with the institutions that we are visiting, like Uganda Wildlife Authority, the hotels, to make sure that the destinations, the hotels where we are taking the tourists, are safe for our tourists. On top of that, we are able to achieve that when we use well-trained and professional guides who have been trained about, basic security, information, who are trained on safe driving, who are trained on, first aid in case of maybe an accident or something like that. So a combination of all that, a safe destination by the government of Uganda, a system of the tourism police, a system of sharing information through the Association of Uganda Tour Operators, and most importantly, having trained and very alert driver guides with well-maintained vehicles gives confidence to our visitors to come and safely enjoy their tours while in Uganda.
Yeah, and you answered something I was going to also ask you separately. How do you go about recruiting, retaining, and training your drivers and guides? You've already touched about that. I know you have professional staff. I've worked with you, and I have had amazing drivers, tour guides, people who are knowledgeable about everything you do. How do you collaborate with the government of Uganda while you do this type of work?
Yes, so maybe let me first add on the about the staff that we work with. We try as much as possible to work with our staff, and the major, we have the back office staff, but one of the key staff of any tour operator are the tour guides. So we work with working with Uganda Tourism Board to recruit driver guides who are trained and are licensed as tour guides, and who are professional tour guides. Mm-hmm. But also, most importantly, we have our drivers go for refresher courses in wildlife guiding, safe driving, first aid, and all that. So that gives us, an opportunity to have drivers that our customers and clients feel comfortable, enjoying their tours in Uganda, because you don't want to have a visitor coming, and instead of focusing on enjoying the experiences, they are worried about drivers who are driving very high speed. They are not. So I think that is really very important, because a tour is enjoyed by that experience. You don't want to have a tourist coming and they have a guide who can't even answer a few questions about Uganda, who are not knowledgeable. Exactly. Yeah. So I think having professional trained guides is really one of the key aspects that Big Tours as a company is focusing on, and we look forward to continue doing that. Wonderful. So you have asked about
how do you ensure that the work you do is environmentally sustainable or continues to promote conservation in Uganda? Because I know people come, you talked about Bwindi impenetrable forest is impenetrable, but then these people are cutting ways to go in. Is that something you work with the conservation experts? And also when you talk about the gorillas, I've had a pushback from one of the people who advocate for indigenous people called Batwa. And this woman specifically said to me, the gorillas in Bwindi are treated better than Batwa. How do you reconcile that? So please address the sustainability and environmental protection and conservation, and how you as a tour operator would answer this woman's question who thinks gorillas are treated better than Batwa people who are the pygmies.
Okay, thank you so much about that. First, as in my introduction, I mentioned that as Big Tours, we are focusing on small groups, not huge groups. So we, as the policy of a company, avoid mass tourism. Yes. That alone will have, minimum impact on the communities that we build, that we visit.
Yes.
About gorilla tracking and the forest, actually, a system has been organized, has been put in place that embeds sustainability, environmental conservation, in gorilla tourism. That is why for gorilla tracking, it is such a unique activity that each gorilla family, you have a limit of numbers that must visit that family every day. So you have a maximum of 8 people visiting a gorilla family. And the moment you go and reach and have walked through the forest and and have reached the gorilla family, you are given only 1 hour to watch the family. After that, you leave the family to continue enjoying their life in their natural environment. Yes. Actually, that's why in Bwindi Impenetrable National Park, there are no specific paths. There are no trails, specific trails that are known or determined or maintained for visitors to go and track the gorillas. Every day, the visitors must go to where they must trek to where the gorillas are.
Yes.
And the trail that you use today is not the one that another group will use tomorrow. Okay. So by that, because it is impenetrable, the rangers will have the machetes to cut. But by the time you are to have an opportunity to come through the same trail, the bush has already grown and you are starting afresh. So that system alone has got some element of conservation and sustainability. Now, there is this element of human-wildlife conflict. The system of gorilla conservation was designed in such a way that both the communities benefit and the gorillas and other animals in the park benefit.
Yes.
Now, one of the things is that, first of all, a policy was designed that the income that comes out of gorilla tracking, 25% goes to the communities to support directly the activities that benefit the communities that are surrounding the park, including the Batwa groups that you have talked about, that were encouraged to come and live on the outskirts of the forest, so that the animals, so that the gorillas, can have a safe haven and are able to multiply. So directly, 25% of gorilla permits, 25% of the park entrance goes directly. And this money will help in building, like giving loans to the communities around so they can do some small businesses to survive. The big chunk of the money will build the hospitals and health centers and bring medicine, so people are not, feeling they were chased away from the forest and they don't have, medicine from the forest that they usually have. On top of that, gorilla tracking is so it has affirmative action that the first jobs of people working in Bwindi Impenetrable National Park are picked from the communities. Most of the rangers are picked from the community. On top of that, every day gorilla tracking, you need a porter, to help you carry. So the porters who are earning daily income are drawn from the community. So because of that tourism, the more tourists come, the more communities get the money, the more they get what to survive on. So it becomes a symbiotic relationship. And that's how gorilla tourism in Bwindi has been able to keep growing, thankfully for the tourists who have really come to support gorilla tracking in Bwindi, and the communities also protecting the gorillas. The numbers of the mountain gorillas is increasing slowly, and we can be sure about the sustainability of the gorilla tourism in the next few years for the next generation.
Wonderful. Sam, you've been so generous with your time and with your expertise. Every guest I have had on this TJK Shares one-on-one with TJK, I always ask them, what advice would you give your younger self? If you are talking to Samuel Mugisha at 18 to 21 years of age, what advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, that's a very interesting one, because
given everything you've gone through, I mean, this is to help the Nicolases of the world, the Naboths of the world. These young people are looking at Sam Mugisha and going, God gave you all the benefits and prayers and dropped you in this world to do what you do. This question is basically to encourage people at the stage they are in to understand the struggles that you've gone through, to understand the mentors that you've had on the way to get where you are. We didn't touch on you being a fluent Japanese speaker. We didn't touch on you being the only person in Uganda who can actually bring a Japanese tourist who doesn't speak a word in English, give them the tour experience they need, host them at your guest house in Bwebaja, and send them back to Japan without saying a single word in English. You have those customized. In fact, we can go back and a little bit talk about those customized tours. Somebody who is in a wheelchair, you are able to accommodate them. Somebody who just wants to study coffee and pineapples, you are able to accommodate them. But when we do these interviews, we also have to be aware of the time. So much is left out.
Yes.
But for now, we want to look at the young man in Costa Rica, young man in India, young man in the United States, or anywhere in the world who looks at your tour company website and says, how did this happen? What advice would you give to that young person?
Yes, I laughed because I think at that time, age 18, I think, as you know, we lacked career guidance. So we were just living life, the way it was, and but I think one thing that really, really I would wish every young child to focus on, and this is like the silver bullet, keep focused on education. Education will open your doors.
Yes, sir.
In that education and however much you achieve, keep disciplined. Keep disciplined. Yep. Because however much you are educated, however much you are what you achieve, but without discipline, you are going to spoil all the achievements that you have achieved. So for me, two things: education and discipline are silver bullets for any child to focus on.
Right. You've heard the man, managing director, Big Tours. In addition to tours, I know during COVID, you pivoted and started multiple businesses. We never let a guest go without doing what I call shameless plug. People who have written books, that's when they start talking about books. People who have started coffee factories, that's when they talk about them. Please put in your plug. What other things are on horizon or other plans coming up, unique experiences? You can share them now, then we will conclude this interview and call it a day.
Yeah, actually, during COVID, tourism went down, and it gave me an opportunity to focus on something that I eventually came to learn that was really very close to my heart: coffee tourism, coffee business. Actually, coffee, I realized, it dawned on me that actually my life, coffee had an impact on it because part of the school fees was paid by coffee.
Yes.
Yeah. So with our international exposure, with time available in our hands, we went back to our village and organized our farmers into a Nengo Coffee Farmers Association. And we have now moved a step further to train them on quality harvesting of coffee, processing of coffee. And right now we have a brand of a Nengo coffee that represents our background, but most importantly, one of the most unique coffee aromas with high quality processing that comes from a place with high altitude, very good volcanic soils that will give any coffee drinker a very good coffee experience. So a Nengo coffee brand is something that we have started. We have even acquired a herring machine. So we are going to be doing washed coffee. We are going to, so many things that are going to do. And now that tourism is back, we will not let anybody passing through southwestern Uganda, going to Queen Elizabeth, going to Bwindi Impenetrable National Park, without being able to visit our coffee tours.
Yes.
So we bring you to the coffee farm, you see how farmers are working on the coffee, you participate in harvesting, you participate in brewing the coffee and drinking and packaging it and taking back to your home a coffee pack that you have participated in processing.
Wonderful. Thank you once again, Samuel Mugisha. Thank you for sparing time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. And most importantly, thank you for taking care of our country, the Pearl of Africa, and taking care of so many lives that have gone through your hands to visit Uganda. For more information, ladies and gentlemen, we'll share it in the comments below. Again, this is TJK Shares. Subscribe, share, and continue to learn and relearn. We are here to provide you free information, bring you transformational people. And today, it's been a pleasure and an honor, my brother, to host you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.